I'm going to, I think I've convinced Mark that next year we have to do someplace different. Just because you only get so many holidays in your lifetime. Yeah.
I'm almost written off just for
Yeah. I think, you know, we're going to be thinking about Turks and Caicos or, yeah, that.
Okay, so I think
this is the best for us.
Turks and Caicos.
All 9 years. I did what? 12 islands, 15.
Yeah, have you ever been to Caymans?
That's the next. I was supposed to go, yes. I mean, but other bands I'm planning next year.
Yeah, I'm thinking of either.
But other bands.
Or Tortola. I might.
big bands.
Possibly.
How that will
Okay.
saying that.
A lot. There's a few.
All right. Well, I'll take. I think it's very, very high on our list.
Yes. Yes.
And we have a whole bunch of people who want to go with us too. So.
Oh God, yeah.
So we're thinking maybe like getting a villa for like 6 couples or something.
Probably not.
You do your own shot.
Yeah.
It is like
Yeah.
If they were smart. Are you monitoring anything? Builds them ahead of in a nest egg.
Yeah. See, we did cook. We cooked for ourselves the whole time this time, which was fine. Well, we went out to restaurants too, but I mean we were in a villa, so we had to cook for ourselves.
Yeah. I love to.
Yeah.
2 weeks there.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Oh, that's great. Sipping a nice glass of water.
Yeah, exactly.
You see the important stuff.
So this is Peter stuff. I'm sure it's not Sean Cruise. It's a little off me.
Dead married 40 years ago. It might have been Pulp Fiction.
Which had a great soundtrack.
Yeah, and then it just sold.
A lot of animosity.
I remember seeing the interview.
You're just
Yeah, I think
we can set those in somewhere.
are you going to be on stage?
why not? Yeah, why not? Mary, how you doing? Good? Maria's with CP. This is my colleague Claire Neary. She's from Conf.
Nice to meet you. How are you today, Mr. Casey? Fine, thanks. Sit down, okay.
How about you stay? You'll stay.
Yeah. We're nice and warm. Peter said so.
Get over here.
Just I go in 10 seconds.
Bonjour, bon matin, bienvenue au Théâtre national de la presse. Nous sommes en compagnie ce matin de Peter Stauffer et de sa collègue Annick Papillon pour discuter de la question des anciens combattants. Monsieur Stauffer.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be honored today to mention the official opposition to the Democratic Party's motion in the House of Commons today, where the official opposition is asking the Government of Canada in the next upcoming budget to not cut the budget of the Department of Veterans Affairs and to also ensure that all veterans, RCMP veterans and their families, receive their services in a timely and comprehensive manner. Today I'm joined with retired Colonel, former Ombudsman, Mr. Pat Strogan, also with World War II veteran Helen Rapp, and many of you know a veterans advocate, former captain, still captain, I guess, Sean Brea. And they'll be discussing as well a few of the concerns as why this motion is important. We're also joined today by my colleagues Nick Papillon and Irene Matheson from the NDP, and also we're joined by Sean Casey of the Liberal Party of Canada, who has decided to join us, as well as various veterans advocates who have joined in today to support the efforts of what we're attempting to do is to ensure that in the upcoming budget on March 29th, that the Department of Veterans Affairs is more or less left alone in terms of its fiscal cuts. We'll also notice, ladies and gentlemen, that the countries of Britain and the United States, to the best of my knowledge, have also indicated that in their fiscal concerns, they will not be cutting their respective departments of Veterans Affairs because they understand that you should not be balancing the books of your nation on the backs of the heroes of our country. And as you know, in the past few weeks, I've highlighted in the House of Commons particular individual veterans across the country who are having challenges and difficulties receiving the services and benefits that they're entitled to. 90-year-old Ted Shiner of Bedford, Nova Scotia, was denied a VIP service in order to assist him with his feet and to assist him in getting some housekeeping services. His age alone should have determined a VIP service for him, but DVA said no, that he could appeal the decision. Those appeals can take up to 6 months, and if he's denied again, he could then appeal again to the VRAB, the Veterans Review and Appeal Board. That could take up to over a year. The man is 90 years old. There's another incident of Mr. Louis Dion of North Vancouver, 97 years old, who's getting a pacemaker in at the Vancouver General. He may have been released by now, we're not quite sure. His wife is 89 years old. DVA told him when they applied for VIP, because she's finding it difficult to assist him in the home, that they will have an answer for them within 16 to 20 weeks. He is 97 years old. The answer should have automatically have been, yes, we will provide you with the services that you require. Now, these are just two of the many hundreds, if not thousands of cases that we have worked on in my 14.5 years of individual veterans, their families, RCMP members and their families who are having challenges and difficulties accessing services and benefits to DVA now. If you cut that department by any amount, even more veterans and their families and RCMP members and their families will find it difficult to access services and benefits. And bear in mind that the St. Anne's Hospital in Quebec is being slated for transfer to the province of Quebec. There are 1,300 full-time equivalent jobs from DVA that'll be gone. Plus, if the estimates are correct, and what we've been hearing in the newspaper, that there's up to 500 additional jobs to be removed from the Department of Veterans Affairs. That is a total of 1,800 positions removed from a department of 4,100 jobs. That is a 40% cut. If indeed that transpires, this will be the greatest cut to any department in the House of Commons. We're asking the government to go the other way. You notice in our motion we didn't ask for more money to go into DVA, although we should have. But we're asking the government to show leadership and show support for this particular motion, because we believe it's the right thing to do. Many, many veterans and their families and the advocates here and in the audience will all, and even Mr. Casey and others, will be able to tell you quite clearly that their phones are jammed, their email boxes are full of individuals who are having difficulty accessing the services under the current budget. What would it be like if you cut that budget? So we're asking the Government of Canada to please support us in our motion tomorrow. The motion is today. The vote is at 5:45 tomorrow, Ottawa time. We're asking the Government of Canada and all political parties to support us in this motion so that the Minister and his department can provide the services to veterans, RCMP members and their families in a timely and comprehensive manner. At this time, I'd like to ask the former Ombudsman of Veterans Affairs, in fact, the very first Ombudsman for Canada for Veterans Affairs, and retired Colonel Pat Strogan, to say a few words as well, please. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been just about 2 years since I left the office of the Veterans Ombudsman, and you probably remember the day. It was a steep decline from August 17th of 2010 in this very room when I voiced my disgust for what I had witnessed in my 3 years as the Veterans Ombudsman vis-a-vis the way our government, the shabby way our government treats our veterans. At that time, some people were critical of my demeanor, my approach, suggesting that perhaps the reason why I was so bitter, the reason why nothing was happening within the department in aid of our veterans was because I was irascible and I was tough to work with. Well, that may have been the case back then. I saluted, I handed over command, and I drifted off into anonymity. 2 years later, what do we see? Nothing has changed. If anything, things have become increasingly worse. So you can't blame that on me. You have to blame it on the system. There are a lot of hurting people out there who have loyally served this country, loyally served this government, and have had their lives shattered in the service of this country, only to come back home and find that they're not being looked after the way we have traditionally understood that we look after our veterans. When I was the Veterans Ombudsman, I pointed out that we are turning our backs on the so-called peacekeepers and the veterans of the war in Afghanistan and handing them over to a Blue Cross system. At that time, our traditional veterans were being held up as the last of a breed. And I can tell you now that the intent was deliberate to cut the liability of veterans once the veterans of Korean War and World War II had passed away. They are a liability to the government. Well, in response to that, what did the department do? They ignored the traditional veterans in order to put the resources into the contemporary veterans of today. And that's what's happening as we speak. Make no mistake about it, there is a tsunami of casualties who will come onto the system, so-called peacekeepers and veterans of Afghanistan, who have been injured in the line of duty, and their wounds and their sicknesses and their injuries will manifest themselves as they get older. And if the federal government doesn't pay for it, then the provincial governments will pick it up in their healthcare plans. And if the provincial healthcare plans don't pick up these casualties, then the community services will pick up the cost. This is a cost of doing business. In closing, I toured many, many homeless shelters in this country when I was the ombudsman, and I realize these are very difficult times. The economy is in very bad shape, and drastic times call for drastic measures. But you know, I had homeless people coming up to me in these shelters expressing their sorrow for the way our veterans are being treated. And if these people have that kind of compassion for our veterans, then surely the government who send our people into harm's way should exercise the same kind of compassion and look after our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Strogan. And I also just wanted to add as well that all major veterans groups, from the Royal Canadian Legion to the Army, Navy, Air Force Veterans Association to the National Council of Veterans Associations and many other organizations, they all met on the Hill just last month, and every one of them signed a letter to the government asking that the department not be cut. Every single one of these organizations. So technically, we're just parroting what they have indicated already themselves to the Minister of Veterans Affairs, because at the end of the day, as Colonel Strogan had indicated, the men and women have the unlimited liability when they serve. We in government or in opposition at the federal level have the ultimate responsibility to their needs and their families' needs, all the way to and including the headstone. And at this time, I invite Captain Chambray to say a few words, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We often hear that Veterans Affairs manages their portfolio as an insurance company. I think that veterans and family members could only be so lucky if they were so forward-thinking as to manage it as well as an insurance company. The truth is that Veterans Affairs has negligently and incompetently managed a portfolio of caring for veterans and their families for more than 15 years.